Today, I want to talk about mortality and what would and does mean for us. Um, in our lives, we are faced daily with the problem of death. We figured out that there would be an end to our lives, uh, and it's not going to be forever, at least here. All right. So And not only this end is going to be somewhere there, far away, but daily we're faced with the needs to sustain ourselves, so it would not come sooner. Uh, we need we have the basic needs that have to be satisfied, the conditions that have to be met for us to keep on living. Um, we need food, we need water, and much more. Uh, we need to be nurtured and cared for, and um, and many other conditions that should be met for us to survive, for us to develop, um, and for us to stay healthy, and not to move closer, as we still do, to death. So there's something that brings us closer to death, uh, or ensures that, and there's something that kind of is necessary for us to stay alive. But let's just think about this uh, concept, and what does it provide us with? Well, when we are faced with the um, factual truths of death, we uh, now know that we just have to be careful in what we choose. That we can't live as we want to, or we can't do whatever. We can't center our attention to anything, to everything. We can't. So our time is limited. Our strength is limited. Our resources are limited. Our energy is limited. It's not endless, and we do realize it. We realize it. We get tired. We um, start losing strength. Especially when we make wrong choices, we receive a negative consequences that could damage our health, our condition, that could bring us closer to death. So, through different ways, we realize more and more all these limitations, all these signals of our mortality. Um, and we know that we can't do everything we want. We can't know everything. We can't attempt to everything. We can't attempt to discover everything. We don't have time, but we also don't have resources. Um, and we can't think about everything. Um, so, and even more, we're not built biologically to to kind of to spread our attention on everything. Our focus and our attention has its condition and predispositions. It's not random. It's it's focuses on what matters to us, on the values of that actually meet our needs. Um, hungry person hardly can, you know, continue entertaining himself, because it's not it stops becoming that entertainful, it's that fun when you are hungry, and your attentions and your body starts demand from you to prioritize your basic needs, to prioritize something or the other thing. So we are not wired, built to just be spread out onto everything without any uh mm, like indifferently. There is the sort of specific attribution to that, specific meaning and value in what exactly do we need, in value of it to us. That's interesting, and it also leads to us saying that all of that contributes. So our bodies ourselves, and the factual truth of its limitations, its mortality, necessitates this, um, perhaps you can say, function of perception. It necessitates priorities. It necessitates the hierarchies of values. It necessitates to uh, it necessitates us to look specifically at what we need. Um, yes, however, from early childhood, we do understand that life does not circle around us, and that though we have our needs and wants, um, they are not necessarily are going to be answered, and they surely are not going to be answered by themselves. Something needs to happen. Some motion, some force needs to be implied, some effort made for us to receive what we not only want but also need. Uh, for those requirements for our survival would be met. Um, and someone should do that. Uh, and and this how we were faced with um endless problems, of the world not matching our wants and needs. um we do understand that uh the world itself, the reality itself, is not um dependent on our existence. It exists before us and it will exist after. It's not dependent on us. It's not really about us. But we are about us, and we cannot quite get completely outside of us. Uh, and our body surely is not about that. It's not about doing that. So what are we trying to do in our lives when we're faced with mortality, when faced with all these kinds of problems? We attempt to make the most of it, right? To make the most with what we have. Even for those people who believe in their life after death, um, the decisions to to make this sacrifice for this kind of belief, um, and to follow it, is also an attempt to make the most of what you have now for something in the future. So yes, your life here is will come to an end at some point, and what you can do is you can make wise and discerning choices that uh, that make life, that in a way that you adapt to life, so that ensure your well-being properly. Or you can make unwise choices and move closer to death, uh, shorten the gap uh, of time that you have. And we also can say that these the mortality leads us to kind of think about, well, what is the point then, right? If it's going to end at some point and I'm going to be there no more, the questions we pose are, well, why to leave it in the first place, right? Um, we question and search for purpose. We question and search for meaning. When faced with the fact of death, we search for meaning. But what is the purpose? Um, so I would, and what is the meaning as well, right? I would say that in in the context of mortality, you understand that now knowing your death, you question what then it is for, if it's going to end at some point, and then you you attempt to answer this question: what is it for? How is it still valuable? Why should it be there? Because you perhaps you want to see the bigger picture. You search for some sense of the guiding direction that yes, you're doing what needs to be done, because it's still not pointless, because your life contributes to something bigger. And it's interesting because as you understand that life is not about you, it's not that you specifically want to make it about you by needing it to be meaningful, but it's like you still, even if it's not about you, you want uh, you want your life to be contributing to something, still be a part of something, right? Not to be just left out in a vacuum, out of the context of this reality. And it's also not quite what your senses tell you, right? Because in this reality, you're not left out of the context. You're all in that. So it's quite hard to even think of and imagine to be outside of uh, the reality, uh at least consciously. um so right, well, let's try to move on then. um Now mortality raises an important a problem of choices, and as we mentioned that as mentioned, we move and we spread our attention onto what uh, grabs us, right? And what grabs us is partially what we need. There is the sorts of reasons to why it's kind of attracted us in the first place, right? And the reasons for that are in us. Well, also in the object as well, but in us also, right? So it somehow answers to what we have or want to have. So it's interesting that um, you make choices on the basis of your on the you so your choices is kind of the decisions you make to what to kind of to spread your attention to. um and we also can suggest that we don't necessarily know what answers our needs, but then the good question would be why, if these things that we need the most manifest themselves in that they catch our attention. This would be a good question. But right, but perhaps there's all sorts of things that could be mistaken for what they're actually not. mm, or or they can be a substitute for something we need, but not the best substitute, not the one that moves us far from death, but let's say closer to that, right? So, for example would be you need water to survive, right? But you can attempt to substitute it with, let's say, other drink. But for how long you can substitute it for it not so it would not start being damaging to you, right? So it would not be the good substitute. um you need food, and food would, let's say, attract when you're hungry, or all kind of different food could attract your attention. But if you don't have the knowledge for which um fruits are poisonous and which are not, it could be, you could make a fatal mistake. um yeah, so